What's up guys? Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to do a 10 scene posing showcase on an absolute grail piece of mine. Hot Toys MMS 342 BVS Batman with tech cow and sniper rifle. Batman is one of my favorite heroes, and this iteration of him is one of my favorite looks overall too. Ben Affleck in this suit really pulled off that look and gave us that imposing force and beast-like Batman, which I absolutely loved and definitely wanted more of. Now, to get you up to speed, this piece I went above and beyond to get, as I was late to the game and I missed out on him when he was originally released, but now, finally having him in hand, I can tell you it was worth it, and posing him up for this video has been so much fun for me. I've done a few mods on him as well, including the Beef mod by Dean Knight. Shout out to you, kind sir. This is where you put in some padding in the chest to make the chest puffier. I did this to create less room between the tab of the cow and the chest. It also makes him look a little more imposing, more thick, which I think is fitting. Then we have a custom wired cape from Unreal Toys on Instagram. Shout out to you too, kind sir. I've purchased a few different capes from him and I've been very happy every single time, so go check him out. Eventually, I will be looking to get a drape cape from this bad boy too. Now, if you're new to the channel, in these posing showcases, I have each pose go around the turntable a few times to the length of the song I've chosen to set the mood. I give you some info on the inspiration for the pose and any other variables at the start of each scene, and Bob's your uncle. Just enjoy the poses and hopefully get some inspiration for your own display. But now, with that, you know what we do. Pose number 1. We have Batman walking with his cape flowing in the wind. This pose is actually inspired by the Prime 1 Hush Batman statue Batcave edition, which is also based on the comic book art by Jim Lee. I wanted to see if I could emulate the vibe of that piece whilst making some subtle changes to make it my own. Those that know the statue will know that mine isn't 100% accurate to the look of the statue, as I don't have that amazing base to go with it. I've made some changes to switch it up. One change is I have both feet flat on the ground, and I chose to change that up as I didn't want to use a stand and I just wanted to have Batman on his own to admire on the turntable. Whilst posing him up, I've also made some subtle changes to the cape slightly, again to make it my own. That's the cool thing about posing up your figures. As you go through the process and make tweaks along the way, your original idea can change and you can end up somewhere completely different from where you started. Sometimes for the better and sometimes for the worse. Hey, but that's the fun part. I don't think I'm too far off here as well, and I'm very happy for this to be the one to kick off the showcase. I'd love to know if you can see the inspiration from the Prime 1 statue in this pose like I do. Let me know in the comments down below. Pose number 2. We have the Batman standing atop the amazing Gargoyle base by Base Station. This pose for me is a classic, iconic way to display your Batman, especially if you have this diorama available and a custom cape. I've experimented with the lighting on this one too by adding a red tone with the Philips Hue bulb I've just recently purchased. I do that throughout this showcase using different colors as I'm trying to show different looks as I imagine him on the rooftops of Gotham with neon lights glowing everywhere. I think the red looks cool bouncing off the base and his suit and sets the scene perfectly. I think for a figure like this, being one that you probably don't want to leave in a strenuous pose for too long, having the custom cape adds so much more to it. It means you can create a dynamic look by simply articulating the cape to show movement and character. You can use the cape to elevate the moment, and that's what I try to do throughout this whole video for the collector who doesn't want to mess around with posing up the figure too much. In regards to this pose, It's actually pretty strenuous on the figure with the left leg here, as it's up pretty high and there's quite a lot of bunching in that hip. But damn, this is one of my favorite looks that symbolizes Batman, and it's definitely how I'd love to leave him in the display. Pose number 3. Here we have Batman wrapped up in his cape, standing atop the Gargoyle base, again, watching over the city. Believe it or not, whilst this figure is in a basic pose, this one actually took me a while to get to a point I was okay with it, as I was having trouble with getting the cape to wrap around like I wanted it to. I think with patience you can get the cape like this to mold pretty much any way you want. However, the challenge I faced though is I wanted to have the cape wrap over the front of the shoulders, which didn't go the way I wanted, so I ended up improvising and going for this look instead. Now as you can see, I've zoomed in a bit for a closer look to show a better angle of the details on the cape as it goes around. I personally love the look of the creases and how the light bounces off of them. I chose a purple light this time to reflect off the figure, and I'm loving the colour as it bounces off the cape and base. This is easily the type of pose you can leave him in long term without damaging the figure, again by using the cape to tell the story. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Pose number 4. Batman, weaponed up, locked and loaded, standing atop the perch, getting ready to get to work. For this pose, we bring in my favorite base, yet again, the battle-damaged Thanos base. Are you guys sick of seeing this one yet? I think this one works better for this scene though, as he balances really well on it. Batman has great balance as a figure in general, so no issues there. He's quite heavy, which I like. He also comes with a lot of accessories, so I try to fit them in throughout this video to showcase all your options for him. The only one I think I left out is the tech cow, which this time around just didn't fit into the poses that I wanted to try. I'll look at doing that another time, as I feel like I could keep going for poses with him. He's that much fun to play with. Both these two weapons are very cool additions, so I had to find a way to incorporate them this time. The pose itself is pretty basic. The right elbow joint is pretty squished though, so probably something I wouldn't leave him in for too long. I have the cape flowing, showing where the direction of the wind is going and where he's standing. I've added a pink light to bounce off the figure again to set a different mood to this scene. Let me know what you think of this one in the comments down below. Pose number 5. Batman leaping across the Gargoyle base in motion, firing off his grappling hook. This pose right here, guys, is one of my favorites, and I'm really happy with how this one came out. It's actually inspired by the New 52 Batman statue by Prime 1 Studio. When I saw that and I saw how dynamic it was, I wanted to see if I could emulate it with a 1/6 figure. Again, as always, I started posing him up, and it kind of took on a mind of its own as I tweaked it to get it to this point that I settled on for the final look. It's not exactly the same as the statue again, the base is different, and I have his body positioned a little different, but I think you can still see the inspiration from it, especially from certain angles. So far during my time playing around with this figure, I have to say I've been pleasantly surprised by how well he articulates, and for this one I'm using his mobility but also using angles by leaning him out to the side like that and using the cape again to sell movement and action. Then we have the back foot connecting with the base to imply he's pushing off, which also helps him balance as well. Don't forget about using angles when displaying your figures, guys. That's the beauty of flight poles. You can bend and twist them. You just have to make sure to get it to a point that it balances the figure in a safe way before you let it go. Pose number 6. Batman launching into the air, about to throw a batarang at a criminal who's just about to get his ass beat. I think having him posed like this on the top shelf in your display would look absolutely epic. You see, this is why I love wide capes. You're not going to get this look with the standard cape. It ain't going to happen. It just adds so much more to the look of any pose if done right. And for those wondering, unfortunately this won't fit in a single DTOF, but damn it if it did. This one's for the people with a different display that allows a little bit more space. I love how Batman can look cool being stoic, but also look really great being dynamic. I think everything about how they engineered this figure is spot on. Yeah, it has its flaws with some mobility of the cowl and poor original cape that it comes with, but I don't care about that at all. I look to the positive. I like to see what I can create with him in spite of all the difficulties. That's part of the fun of posing for me and displaying my figures. Coming up with how I can best display them to invoke why I love the character on my shelf. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Pose number 7. Batman leaping off a perch at the beginning of catching the wind in his cape. I was originally going to go for a look I saw in a comic of him coming down like he's breaking his fall and catching the wind. However, again, once I started tweaking and thinking about how I would make it work, I decided to switch back to this base so I could use the clear rod and crotch grabber that comes with it instead of using the waist grabber and the flight pole. I think this one looks way cleaner and there's less distraction from seeing a flight pole and waist grabber. And then because of how I get him to balance using this, I decided to switch up the angle and make the scene him catching the wind about to leap off a perch instead. I also tweaked the tips of the wings out the back so when it comes around on the turntable, it gives the impression that the wind has pushed the weaker parts of the cape back as he's moving forward. I think this is a staple pose to try if you have a Batman in a wired cape. You really get to see how big this thing is and the wingspan of it. It just looks awesome. It is massive. The pose itself is a balancing act using the crotch holder. I guess that's what you'd call it, but I'm doing this having his left leg again touch the back of the base to create another anchor point. It's not a lot, but it does the job and keeps him in place. I actually like this one slightly from side on a bit better. What do you guys think? I mean, either way, I think he looks pretty cool in this. Pose number 8, we have the Dark Knight leaping off the Gargoyle base, about to deliver some justice with the knuckle dusters on an enemy. For the purpose of this scene, I brought in my Ronin to be that poor guy to get his ass beat. Really only because I don't have any Batman villains for Bats to go up against yet, and also because he kind of looks like a ninja, plus the color scheme I think works well with Batman and they go good together. We're definitely going to get more dynamic now, and I'm putting the finger under a lot more stress. I will say I wouldn't leave him in this pose in the display due to that reason. This one is purely for photography purposes and for this video to see what I could come up with. If you haven't yet, check out my Instagram Iron Logan to see my gallery. I usually document my making of these videos and photos along the way for fun, plus a little bit more. For this scene, I brought in some yellow light down the bottom coming from the right side of the screen here to reflect off the blacks, the greys and the golds of these guys, which I think adds a nice element. And for the photos I took on this one, I think it comes through really nicely. Pose number 9. Batman tackling two thugs with ease, steamrolling through them like the beast that he is. This is a pose I've been thinking about trying for a while now, and now that I've finally got my Batman, I'm using him to do it. I wanted to give it a go, and I can honestly say this is one of my favorite poses I've done for a few reasons, and I'll tell you why. 1, I love trying to get figures to interact with each other to tell a story, and I think this does that. 2, I was able to use this clear rod to get them all to balance using his left leg and crotch grabber without needing any additional stands to hold up multiple figures. Batman, the figure, is that tough, he is literally holding both these figures himself. And 3, with the music and lighting combined, I just love how this one works. The other figure I brought in was my Wolverine, as his outfit is not a costume and he can pass as a thug for this one. Let me know what you guys think of the hype I have for this one, or am I crazy? But I really like this one. Pose number 10, the final scene. We have Superman and Batman together using the Gargoyle base. This pose was actually loosely inspired by the comic book cover, Batman and Superman, the New 52, issue number 1, I believe. However, I wanted to use the Gargoyle base for it to showcase how you can pose two figures on it together in your display. Now, because of using the base, I had to get creative again, and I decided to have Superman facing the other way. In the comic, he's launching up behind Batman, so from front on you can see them both facing you. But for the purpose of this video though, I think because of having them on the turntable, I think having it this way works a lot better visually. And honestly, I could do a whole video of these two guys posed up together, whether it be battling or teaming up. Maybe I'll look at that for another video. Let me know in the comments if you'd like to see something like that, and I might get to work on it. I will add, for Superman, I've also done some mods on him, and I've added a custom cape and undone the back of his suit so I can use a wire to slot into his back to hold him up. It's a genius idea and definitely not mine. I much prefer having him displayed this way, as you no longer see the waist grabber and you also don't have to worry about it damaging the suit. So, this concludes my 10 pose showcase of my Grail Batman BVS figure. I hope you've taken away some tips and some ideas on how to display your Batman, plus hopefully you've enjoyed seeing some cool poses on the turntable to admire this figure too. Lastly, if you enjoy my content and if you've made it to the end of the video and haven't already, do us a favor and hit that like button, hit the notification bell, subscribe to the channel. I'm working on a new giveaway for when I reach 2.5k subs, which I'll hopefully be able to announce very soon on the channel. We got reviews, posing and story-styled posing showcases, live streams including Take Your Position Live, which I co-host with 1/6 Scale Man, Lael, and Real Riley, my guys. My show Posed Up, where I interview a fellow collector or content creator, and soon-to-air vlog series, Training to Become a Spidey Man, plus much, much more. Anyway, until next time, live life, have fun, and keep posing. I'm out.